Hey guys, Brian here with Fishing Hype Outdoors, and today we are going to be fishing current. We're going to be fishing a river and using current breaks and the current itself to our advantage. And hopefully today I can show you how to read the water, what you're looking for, the different areas that fish hold on a river that are going to be completely different than what you're doing, on a lake or, a reservoir that maybe has no current going through it, or natural lakes that have no current in them at all. River fishing is definitely different than most of your normal, your lake fishing, because current is the number one factor, and you got to use the current to your advantage. And it is, because what it'll do is, the one thing with current, it positions fish in predictable places. You can go down a bank, shoreline, whatever, and you can almost look and almost guarantee where there should be a fish. Doesn't mean that there's one there at that particular time, or it's going to bite when you make that cast. But you can pick out the high percentage places really easy. And hopefully today we can teach you some of that. So let's get out here and see what we can find. One thing, like fishing a river, no different than a lake or any body of water, you're always looking for the hard cover. You're looking for hard bottom, hard packed sand, gravel, shell beds. You're looking for riprap banks, gravel banks. Most rivers on the outside bend where the current's going to hit it, it's usually going to be riprap, or it's going to be some sort of shell rock that hasn't been swept away by the current, where the opposite side, the inside corner, is usually going to be more of your muddy clay banks. And most of your fish are going to be on these harder banks. Now, there are times you might find a lay-down tree or something, a real good lay-down tree on a clay bank, on a corner that might have a fish on it, but for the most part, you're looking for fish just like you would in a lake on hard bottom, hard target areas. Current-wise, current can be your friend or be your foe. You try to make it your friend. Again, it positions fish in very specific, very easy to see areas. But then again, if you get too much current, what'll happen is you can't maybe even control the boat with it. Trying to stay in it, you'll burn up your batteries or whatnot. So it's kind of a fine line to where there's sometimes not enough current, and what'll happen is fish are used to current, they wind up suspending, they kind of go wherever they want. Too much current, they're going to get behind specific stuff, but then you can't, you almost literally can't fish it when you're going to burn up your batteries trying to stay in it. A lot of times, bringing your bait, and I'm going to say 75 to 80% of the time, the fish are going to want the bait coming with the current. That's what they're doing. They're getting out of it, positioned behind a rock or whatever, a log, whatever it might be, and they're waiting for the current. They're letting the current do the work. They're letting the current push the bait to them. And it comes drifting by. They come out from behind that rock, eat, and go back in, and they can conserve their energy being in that little eddy. So you want to bring your bait doing the same thing. You want to bring your bait casting up into the current and then bringing it down so it's in a natural motion. Now, there are times that actually the opposite way happens, and that happens in any and all fishing situations. It doesn't matter what you're doing. They don't do everything the same all the time. So just like here, you can go drift down with this current, cast down current, and bring it up against the current, and you're going to catch fish. And there are times that's actually a better presentation than throwing up current and bringing it with it. So you got to find out each day what those fish are doing, what they want, how they want it. And sometimes it can change by the hour. Sometimes if you're on a lock system and they open up a lock and you don't have a lot of current, all of a sudden they open up the lock to let a barge or recreational boat out. What'll happen is it'll create more current. And those fish in the beginning, big guard just took off. In the beginning, those fish, there wasn't a lot of current. Those fish are spread out, and you can kind of catch them with or against the current either way. All of a sudden, there's more current added to the system. Those fish will get again, behind something to get out of that current, and then you're going to have to bring that bait with the current. Fishing rivers and streams with current, and any place that's got current, that's the #1 deal. And I'm going to show you here on the water what you're kind of looking for and how to read the water. And up here, I don't know if you can see the bubbles moving, but you can see we've got current moving down through here. But back here you can't really see it, but there's a rock ridge that runs all the way down along through here. And right here, I don't know if you can see these bubbles and this current kind of rolling right here. Well, that's where there's a shallow spot. You can't see these rocks right now. If the water was down, you could see them. They'd stick out like those down there. But with not being able to see it, you need to know what the current looks like, or a current break looks like, to be able to pick that out and have an area to fish. And I don't know if you can tell where the beginning of it is. There's, if you can see the rock that's right up underneath here, but it's pushing up on there, and the current's hitting it, rolling up, and that's creating those eddies and that boil right there. And then there's a ridge of it down through here, and you can see the other swirls and stuff going through. That is a telltale sign that there's shallower water and that there's something there creating an eddy effect. And so what would happen is I'd want to be fishing on this back side in this stronger current. The one thing with the shaky head is when you're fishing it, is making sure you've got that bait just trickling it up. Oh, big mudfish. The one thing when you're throwing a shaky head or any bottom bouncing technique on in current, especially along this riprap, is use a bait that is just heavy enough. You got to have it heavy enough to get down there, but you don't want it so heavy that when you throw it, when it is there, it locks in on the bottom, because then all you're going to do is get hung up all the time. So what you want to be able to do is throw it out, and basically it's just kind of a lift and fall the entire time. What you're doing is just lifting it up enough to let the current kind of just drift it back. So if you get one that's too heavy and you let it sit too long, that bait's just going to bury up in the rock and you're going to be hung up all the time. So get yourself one, and every current's different. I mean, some days if you don't have any current, you can get by with a lighter one. Days that you have heavier current, you're going to have to use a heavier weight to keep it down there. If you use too light a one during heavy current, obviously it's going to blow it out of there, and the fish will never have a chance to get to it. One thing to look for too along these, we're just fishing down this riprap bank, and it's not a real, it's, for the most part it's straight, but it's got a couple little bumps that stick out of it. And here it's got a little bigger bump with a kind of a little pocket up here. And what's happened is as the currents come down, it's swiping up against here and hitting this pocket and this point, and it's coming out here by the boat. But actually down through here, it's actually been fairly, it's kind of a calm area, a slick water area, and actually what's happened to it is the current's actually reversed because it's making a big eddy. So this particular spot right here, for sure, the water's turning and going back against the current that was coming down. These are excellent places to find like a school of fish, where they're all trying to get out of the current. They've got current coming the other way, bringing food to them, and yet they can stay out of the main current that's pushing the food down. This is one of those golden areas, because you can still catch, you're still wanting to fish the main current, and yet you've got secondary current that the fish can get out of, but yet bringing bait by it. And this is one of those spots you can fish with, with the current, and then turn around and fish with the current coming back the other way. Went to the shaky head. I don't think he was very big. Just seen him kind of roll on it twice. One time he had it better than the other, but pretty hard to usually trick them 3 times. Ooh, there he got it. I didn't think he was very big, but we tricked him into biting it. Come here, little bugger. Those little ones are the ones that'll get you. I knew he was up there. Definitely not a giant, but I knew he was in there. He swirled on that swim jig twice and couldn't resist that big bite trick stick though. That's a perfect little spot. Here's another spot right here that has dynamite on any of these river systems. Is a little secondary creek coming in. I'll show you right here. Got this bank we've been fishing. You got this bank that we've been fishing, riprap, it comes down to this little point, and you got this secondary little channel that comes in, and I mean, it gives you a point here, it gives you a point back here to fish. This one's even got a log laying in it, and this particular one, we're actually only in about 2 foot of water at the most, and it's got a real nice shell bed gravel flat right out here in front of it. A lot of them will have like a brush pile, maybe a lay down tree, and that's a great spot. You don't have to get way back in the creeks. They just don't seem to always have a lot of fish in them. But if you get right at the mouth and you can get a lay down tree like that or one off the bank, always a dynamite spot. As far as baits go, fishing the river, the 2 I don't go fishing without for sure is a swim jig. This one here happens to be the Outcast Tackle Pro Swim Jig. 3/8 is probably my... Quarter's probably my favorite. 3/8 I throw quite a bit of the time though too, just depending on how heavy the current and stuff is. But that is always tied on, no matter what. And a shaky head. Those 2 baits, I'd never go to the river without those 2 baits. Then, of course, you've always got a flipping jig or something to flip, brush with, lay downs. Sometimes just going down riprap bank, flipping that. As far as moving baits, you obviously have your swim jig. You can do a spinner bait, same effect. And then I love square bills. A real shallow square bill that's almost like the Spro Fat 50. That's almost like a wake bait. It'll actually get down to about 3 foot of water, but you can reel it real slow and keep it up. But that and their MD, this one gets down if you got to get down a little bit deeper on some rock, a little deeper bank. But both of them being square bills, they'll bounce off the cover really well for you. Topwater bait, gotta have a topwater bait. Poppers, for whatever reason, just seem to be the deal on a river. I mean, you will catch them. I've caught them on spooks and stuff before too, but a popper, for whatever reason, on river systems and current, a popper seems to be a great bet that way. And then your jerk baits, I mean, most current areas are going to have spots or smallmouth in them, and they just, a smallmouth cannot resist a jerk bait. I ain't saying it's the best bait to use on every situation, but man, never leave home without a jerk bait somewhere in your box. You don't have to have it tied on all the time, but I'm telling you what, when you're on a river system, a jerk bait will definitely catch fish. But those are my main core baits there. Again, I mean, you can throw Carolina rig, drop shots. Guys have thrown it, on the Tennessee River in Kentucky over there. The guy won it throwing Alabama rig and stuff over there too. So, it all depends on your river systems and all, and what each one, presents. But when day in and day out on any river, whether it be you know, a TVA chain or an Army Corps chain, or if it's the Mississippi River or maybe the Wolf River up in Wisconsin, and any of that, grass, wood, rock, doesn't matter. If it's got current and you're fishing a river system, I've always got a swim jig tied on. I've always got a shaky head tied on. And then you can go from there, and I mean, your top waters, your jerk baits, crankbaits, all that. But that will cover the basis. I mean, if you're going to go to a river system today, if I was going to put 2 baits on, like I said, a swim jig and that shaky head, you'll be able to catch fish anywhere on that river system. And then, of course, you know, you got the rest. But those are your baits for when you're out here on the river. You're not going to be looking for real deep stuff, so you can leave your big 20-foot diving crankbait type stuff at home, and your big 1-ounce jigs, football heads, and stuff like that. You can pretty much leave at home. But this is going to be your main core baits that you're going to need. Things I really like about fishing the rivers, you just never know what you're going to catch. I mean, there's a multitude of fish down here on any of them. You obviously get in the southern states, and you got all 3 species available: spots, the largemouth, and largemouth bass. And you just never know when you flip in there or throw a crankbait by there which one's going to eat it. That's what really makes this river fishing fun. Biggest thing, try to parallel the banks as much as you can on the river. There's not a lot of fish. Not a lot of fish are going to like chase the bait out from the bank a long way. So if you can keep the boat on the bank as close as you can without obviously scratching the boat. There you go. Alright, buddy. Oop, and off he went. Not a giant, but it was fun to tug. They're only going to be 5-8 foot off the bank, because a lot of these banks come in and they drop really quick. And I mean, I don't know if you can see, you know, along the bank here as how this riprap comes down, but it's at a 45, if not better. So you got to remember that going under the water is doing the same thing. And a lot of times there's little shelves that stick out that'll come down and drop off, but it might only be 4 feet deep, and that shelf might stick out 4 feet, and then boom, it just cliff dives right into, you know, main river channel. And like, I'm already in 12 foot of water out here, and I'm only 6 foot off the bank. See me get hung a couple times with this crankbait. A lot of times what you can do, especially if you're drifting with the current and you're bringing the bait back into the current, is just give it slack. And a lot of times that current will push it, you know, push that bait off from whatever it's hung on. Now, if you're bringing the bait with the current and it gets hung up, you usually got to get up above it to pull it backwards, to pull it against the current and get it off, because that current's pushing that bait obviously back onto what you were fishing. Here's an awesome little spot I want to show you that will give you the 2 different types of spots to fish on one current break. We've got a big rock sticking out here. We fished down this entire bank all the way down. Here is a big rock, flat, whatever outcropping sticking out. And you got current coming down here, and you can see it's hitting right up there in front of where my rod is. Your active fish will always be on the front side. If there's active fish here feeding, they're going to be on that front side. As long as the current's not blowing hard, which it's not here, they're going to be on that front side catching whatever comes down first. Your fish that are, in that neutral mode, inactive mode, they're going to be back here. There's a little eddy right there. It's probably about where your neutral fish are going to be. They'll eat. They're going to let something come around. You can see it's kind of swirling an eddy right there for them, and they're going to wait for the fish. They're going to wait for the current to bring the bait fish to them. There's also another one right back here, and you see a little bait fish jumped out. That's another spot. Your very inactive fish, they're going to be back here along the shoreline right there where there's really no current at all. The bubbles aren't moving. They're just going to belly down and not do anything. So if you're coming up here making a cast, whether if you're coming down or going up, my first couple casts, I want to hit right up there. That's where your active fish are going to be. This here is going to be here, and right there you can see where the little eddies are coming around. That's where your neutral and some active fish will be in there too, just waiting for the current to do the work for them and bring the bait fish to them. There's one, got it right underneath the boat almost. I didn't feel him. I think he had it and he was swimming at the boat with me with it. There we go. That one's a little better. Chunky fish. Nice river fish. Boy, he's short. He might, I don't know what happened to that tail, but there. That's a better looking, a little bit more like what we're after right there. That one came on the swim jig. I don't know if that's going to be a difference. I've been throwing that crankbait and got down here where came across this little sandbar, put the power pole down and kind of made a couple casts up on this rock spot. Kind of figured there's a little bit of a hole right here. And he got it almost right under the boat. Gravel spot where the old creek came out, and it's kind of got an eddy area right here too, but I kind of figured there had to be one fish in it. That fella came across the back of the cart. Got a little bit more of a point coming up right here, and then there's kind of a nothing area to another rocky point that sticks out with a little hump out in front of it. So we'll fish this point and slide down to that little hump and see if there's anything on there. I love throwing that swim jig in current. You can rig it up to look like a bait fish so easy, and it just comes through stuff so well. Especially when you're fishing like the Mississippi River or any of the rivers that got grass on them and you got current coming through that grass. Oh, you can just throw it through there so much easier. And you can throw a spinnerbait through some of the same areas, but man, a lot of times that's all it takes is a little blade of grass or something to get around the blades, and it just kills the action. Where when you throw this thing on there, you can reel it right through it. And there's something also to do when you're going down, even if you're drifting with the current, especially if you got two guys in the boat. One guy can throw down current and bring it up against the current. The other guy could throw up current and bring it with. If you're by yourself, a lot of times, like I do these high percentage spots, I'll try to get myself where I just turn around and make a half a dozen casts back up current and bring the bait down there with it. And here we got an eddy spot, so the current about stops there and comes out, and then it swirls around, so that bait was actually going this way. But I want to make a couple casts up this direction to bring it with that current. Like I said, a lot of things you just never know. There are some days they want it coming with, other days they want it going against. A little stump right here. I'm gonna make a couple casts up. Spot where this rock, little point comes down. Looks like this rock fell off out here into the river. It creates a nice little hump. You've got the front side of this hump that the active fish should be on if there's any that are, you know, sitting right there in front waiting for bait to come. Dang, I think that was a garb. And then you're gonna have, you got the back side of it where you got the back side of it where the neutral fish are going to be. Try to get as many casts on the front side as I can. As we drift by it here, now I'm going to cast this back side, and I'll get down here, I'm going to spin the boat around and cast, you know, make a few more casts at it and bring it totally with the current down. Neat on something like this where you've got current on both sides of it. You've got a little trough between it and the point, and you kind of got your outside river edge of it. There's a high percentage spot. Don't be afraid to make a bunch of casts at it. One thing with current fish, they're always moving in and out. You just never know when that fish is going to pull up on it. I usually try giving it, try throwing some action moving baits like this on it, and then if I don't get bit that way, or even if I get a bite or two, I'll still try to come back and throw that shaky head or Carolina rig or something that's going to move a little bit slower around it. It's just you never know what mood those fish are in, what they're actually wanting to eat. Current's moving by a little fast, and you throw moving bait by there too, and boom, it goes zipping on by them. They may not come out and react if they're not in an aggressive mood. There's just a ton of little bait fish just sitting behind those rocks. Just they're in there going like this. Boy, you get that crankbait or a swim jig to come through that and eat them up. I'm gonna. Not a giant, but another one on the shaky head. Right. Fun. Not a giant. Not going to win any tournaments, but you're just out fun fishing. I'll take anything that's going to pull on my line. Caught fish kind of pretty much on everything we're throwing today. The shaky head, the swim jigs. Caught them on a crankbait. Like I said, there's a multitude of other baits you can throw while you're fishing on the river. I mean, if you get on certain areas and kind of refine your pattern, maybe a drop shot would work better where you're fishing, or maybe throwing a Carolina rig would work better. You know, the baits that I showed earlier, just those are the ones that I tend to stick with the most. Seem to always get bit, no matter what river I go to or wherever I'm at. And go out of there. Well, we didn't light them up today, but I'm hoping we were able to teach you a little something on what to look for and spots to look for when fishing moving water and fishing current on rivers or creeks. Point you in the right, get you on the right step anyhow. Maybe something you were missing when you were fishing them. And if you've never fished them, give them a try. Definitely, like I said, they put the fish in specific areas and pretty predictable areas. Hopefully you can get out there and put a few more fish in your boat for you. This is Brian with Fishing Hype Outdoors. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, and look forward to the next time. If you guys like this video, man, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and give it a like. And check the rest of it out. A lot of other videos on there to hopefully give you some good tips and techniques on putting more fish in your boats. Until next time, tight lines. We'll catch you out on the water.